Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kira and I'm here today with my sister Kalei.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about how we both got into the DCP, so some background information. Kalei has done 2 college programs. She did spring of 2016?
Yep.
Spring of 2016 and then summer of this last year, 2018.
Summer alumni 2018.
Yeah. So she's done 2 programs and Kalei didn't get in on her first try, but I got on my first try based on Kalei's advice for getting in, because when you apply multiple times, you kind of learn like what you did wrong and whatever, right? And like what else you should do.
I did 0 research the first time I applied, which I think caused some problems because I kind of just winged it. We had just gotten back from our first trip to Walt Disney World and I wanted to work there and I was like, this sounds really fun, like it sounds like a really cool program.
And we went to Disney World 2015.
End of 2014, beginning of 2015.
Yeah.
We were there for New Year's.
New Year's.
And I met a bunch of cast members there that were on the college program and were like, you should totally apply. It's a really great program. It's so much fun. And I was like, okay.
So I'm going to be on the college program in this spring, which I've already talked about before. But I also helped 2 of my friends get in on their first tries. So Megan, my roommate, is also coming with me. And then my friend Andrew had applied and he actually got in but decided not to go. But they had no experience with this at all. They had no idea what they were doing, but I talked them both through what they should put on their WBIs. But as far as the actual application, like the check boxes and stuff, the thing that she told me when I applied, because I kind of applied on a whim, like I was like home and I was like, Kalei's like, oh, the application opened a couple days ago, you should apply. And I was like, all right, like whatever, because the mistake I made was that I didn't apply. I wanted to do it this fall, but I didn't apply last year because I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go, and then I regretted not applying. So I think if you have any interest in going, you should just apply, and then you can always like turn it down if you decide you can't go or whatever, because
it won't
it's better.
affect your status at all. Like people think, oh, if I say no, like Disney won't rehire me. I've seen people get rehired every single season, even if they don't go. So you can always apply again and again.
Because it just sucks to be in the situation where you're like, oh, I should have applied. Like, it's better to be in the situation to be like, oh, I can't go, like, but at least I know I could get in and I applied and whatever. Basically, on the actual application, when you're filling it out, first of all, you need work experience. If you don't have work experience, you have a pretty slim shot of getting in. So if you're watching this and you haven't ever worked before and you're like, I want to do the Disney College program, like go work at an ice cream store. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's important to have work experience, but it's also important, like, say you haven't had work experience before because you're 18 and it's hard to get a job in a small town, then, you know, go put down the volunteer work you've done.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, if you have volunteer work too.
Put down you're in school. In the application, make sure also when you're applying for different, like, roles, they're called at Disney, make sure you're only putting down the ones you have interest in. Don't put low interest, put no interest.
Yeah.
Because if you put
they'll put you in,
they'll put you there.
Yeah.
Like if they need you, they'll put you.
That's why that's why I think it took me so long to hear back, because it took me like a month after my interview to hear back. Like I got my WBI the same day I applied, and then I did my WBI a week after, and then interview like a couple days later. So it took like, I don't know, it took me a month to hear back after I did the interview, and I think it's because I put like no interest in any roles. Like I put interest in like attractions, maybe costuming. I really wanted Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, but I didn't get that one. And then children's activities and I think front desk or something. Like I didn't put very many interests because, and when you don't put interest in a lot, it takes them longer because obviously they have to figure out if they can use you in that role, especially if they're like high interest roles. But like my friend who got in, Andrew, he applied a week after me, and he got in like within a week of doing his interview because he put quick service, and that's what he got, is quick service. And basically if you put quick service or custodial, you have a really high chance of getting hired.
Yeah, like if you put down, my first program, I put down full service food and beverage, which is like a sit down restaurant.
Yeah. Quick
service food and beverage. I have a lot of food and beverage experience, so I put down things that I felt like I could go into. Front desk, concierge, like all these different positions. I heard back 2 days after my interview and I got in.
Because food, they always need people. Attraction, oh, what's the other one? Character attendant. I put character attendant, didn't get that one, but I wasn't super interested in that anyway. But like character attendant, attractions, and character performer, I guess. That's what everybody wants. So like they take longer to place you in those roles. At least that's my opinion. Obviously we don't really know. But basically on your application, just make sure that you have all of your experience. Work experience, volunteer experience, basically anything. Make sure you put that you've been at school for 2 years away from home or whatever. Make sure that you mark only roles that you would actually do. If you don't want to do housekeeping, don't mark housekeeping. Don't put low interest, just put no interest at all. I literally think I had 5 roles that I was like, I marked as high interest for all of them because I was like, I don't want to do custodial, I don't want to do quick service, and I don't want to do housekeeping.
Yeah.
So like, if you do really want to get in and you don't care what you want to do, put high interest in everything, but make sure that you're absolutely okay with doing everything. Like I said, quick service and custodial, they pretty much always need people. Bus greeter, that's another one that they always need bus greeters.
They need all those roles are really, there's a lot of bus stations.
Like I've heard a lot of people actually really like custodial, and I've heard it gets a bad rep, but people like it because you like not make your own schedule, but you don't have a boss. You kind of just like chill and like
you check in with your coordinator, and then
but you're not like supervised the whole day, like obviously. Yeah, if you're really looking to just get into the program and you don't care what you do, mark quick service, mark custodial, mark bus greeter, mark everything. The other thing is, so immediately after you get the application, you'll probably get a WBI, like right after. No, not true.
Some people don't.
Some people don't get out of applying.
For me, I got the WBI immediately. She got the WBI immediately.
And so did Megan, and so did Andrew. But for the rest of us, I think it really just depends on work experience. I think they want to see how much you have. The more work experience you have, the better chance you have of getting the WBI right off the bat. At least from what I've seen of like people I know, like my friends all have had jobs, so I think that's why it was so easy for them to get pushed through. The other thing is for the WBI, don't skip questions. If you don't know, put neutral, but don't put neutral for more than like 3 questions. Like the one about family, like that's one you want to be neutral on. There's a couple others that I can't remember. But also you should probably try to realize what Disney's looking for. They're looking for somebody that's hardworking, that's trustworthy, that's friendly, and that's
on time,
diligent, and what's the other one?
Someone like who basically
like they
really
take charge and like
they're a leader.
Yeah, a leader, that's the one.
They're not someone who's gonna just but there also has to be someone that's good at communicating and good at following directions.
You just need to know, honestly, what they're looking for. There's definitely rules for everybody, but you have to just know what you're going to be comfortable with, and that goes back to the application. If you're not comfortable talking to big groups of people, don't put you on attractions. Don't put you on front desk. Don't put, roles where you're going to be talking to a lot of people. You have to just know what you want, and that all goes into the WBI too. If you're marking that you are more shy with people, but you put attractions, they're gonna be like, so what's the truth? You know what I mean? Like, if you put like costuming and like, I don't know, backstage kind of stuff, and you put that you're a little bit more shy, it's probably gonna even out because they're gonna realize that you're not lying, right? But it's all about matching your answers. They're gonna ask you like similar questions like 3 times, and if you put different answers for different things,
you're not gonna pass it.
You're not gonna pass it.
Oh, thanks, but
because they're gonna realize that you're like trying to tell them what they want, right? So know what they want, but don't lie. Like if you're lying, you're not helping yourself. Like if you get in, you might get in off your lies, but then you'll be placed in a role that you don't like or you're not comfortable with, and it's just gonna like screw you over in the end. So like,
yeah, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I didn't want this role, like what, can I switch it? And it's like,
you can't switch your role unless you're like, you have like a medical reason.
Unless you're like allergic to everything at work.
Yeah, like if you're like allergic to like bleach and you're in housekeeping, like they'll switch you for that kind of thing. But if you're like, oh, I didn't want attractions, I wanted character attendant, they're gonna be like, tough shit. Like it's not like, they're a big corporation and they have a ton of people applying for this. So like, just if it's saying like, oh, would you tell the truth to your leader? Don't put like no, haha. Like you want to put like yes. Obviously, it's mostly just common sense, but you kind of have to just. It's a balance of knowing what they want and also speaking your truth, But there's stuff like, do you get really like upset if you make a mistake? Like, don't put you get really upset if you make a mistake. Put something like agree. Don't put like strongly agree because they're gonna be like, oh my God, they have emotional problems. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's certain questions you kind of have to just think a little bit harder about. But generally, it's just knowing.
It's a personality test.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So pick the answer that you think is the most correct. Like, look at the answers, be like, okay, there's usually 2 that are like not at all correct, and then there's 2 that could be correct. So make sure to pick the one that you most align with, because as long as you are consistent on that test, you're good to go.
In the WBI, they ask you questions about roommates and stuff. Like, have you ever lived by yourself? Like,
have you ever lived on your own?
Have you ever lived on your own? Will you miss your family? Kind of. Like, you can't be like too, or like, are you conflict avoidant? No. And then
after
for interview,
you get to interview. Oh yay, it's a phone interview. So
prepare.
If you ever had a phone interview, please prepare.
Practice with somebody. write down you can look up questions on Google. Like that's what I did. I just like copy and pasted this girl's list of questions that she got on her interview, and I ended up getting like maybe 3 of them, but it's still a good idea to see what kind of questions you might get.
I wrote down things like the top 3 roles that I wanted. Make sure to have those handy.
Top 3 roles you wanted.
I think.
Why do you want these roles? What in your work experience will help you with having these roles or whatever? How would you solve conflicts with roommates? When's the time that you handled an emergency? Like there's a whole list of questions, but there's also one that's like, why do you want to work for Disney? And like there's stuff that you can't look up the answer to why do I want to work for Disney, right? Like you have to put it on your own personal expectations, and they'll know if you're like reading off a fake sheet that says like Disney's a great company to work for. Like you should put something about personal experience.
Full answers. I had like
notes. So you want to do like
and
notes.
It was like the top said DCP interviewer, and then I had like a line for where I could write down their name when I answered the phone.
That's another thing.
That's important.
Write down your person's name. Mine was like, she like mumbled it, and so I just assumed I knew her name. That was so scary. I don't remember what it was, but she had a really different...
Basically, I wrote down the top 3 roles, and I made little notes. Like, I wrote down, the question was like, why do you want to work for Disney? And I like wrote down that Disney's been a part of my life forever. And then like I was able to elaborate on that. And
yeah, like you want to just do like little notes.
Work, like when's the time like you went above and beyond for a guest, and like I had a story about that. And then it's like they'll have questions like about your current work experience. So make sure to have like stories at the top of your head of stories from work.
Just say yes to everything they ask you. Like she was like, oh, are you okay with carrying 15 pounds of equipment? Like I think I put PhotoPass down. And I was like, oh yeah. And I think I made a joke. I was like, she was like, oh, that could be really heavy like throughout the whole day. And I'm like, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest, like my backpack that I carry to the park probably weighs 15 pounds. And she like totally laughed. So like, if you can make jokes, they like that. And I think that's probably why, I think that answer is why I got attractions. I think that's like the sole reason. So I found my list of questions, and it has Megan's answers on it, but it's all right because the questions are the same. Be prepared to answer difficult questions, like especially if you put character attendant. They asked me, the one, like, what would you tell guests if you had to turn them away because the line was closed for the day? And I was like, I tried that thing with like, oh, Buzz needs new batteries or like whatever, and the lady was like, well, the guest is still angry and he's still upset about it. And I was like, oh. And I just said like, I would direct them to another place they could meet a character, or the next time for the next day at the same park, or another time they can meet them at a different park. How do you feel speaking in front of large groups? What would you do if a 4-year-old girl wanted to ride Space Mountain but she was too short? And I said I would apologize and tell them they're a little too short to ride this ride, but I can recommend and describe to them some other rides in the park that are just as cool and maybe are similar, like Peter Pan instead of Space Mountain. They aren't the same, but they both involve flying. Or the rocket ships, because that's space themed. I don't know. It's kind of just about like, why don't we look on the map and I can circle how you can get there and the path or whatever, Another question they ask a lot of people, from what I've heard, both my friends were asked it. Were you asked the emergency question? Tell us about a time you handled an emergency.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I think they ask everybody that because there's pretty much emergencies happening all the time at Disney parks. You just don't know about them because they keep it on the DL. But if they are considering you for any safety critical role, attractions,
custodial,
anything most roles are safety critical. Yeah.
Safety's number 1 at Disney.
They want to know if you've handled an attraction. So I talked about a time that I was a counselor on outdoor ed, and we were on a hike, and a kid who had broken his leg re-broke his leg while we were on a hike. And so I was telling her about how I like handled the kids and sent 3 of them down to go get another counselor while I stayed with the rest. That was the protocol of the camp at the time, okay? I was following protocol. That's what we were supposed to do.
Usually you can come up with something. Always have an emergency situation, and they will
Everybody has an emergency
if
situation.
You're lying, so don't lie. Especially for emergency situations.
Yeah.
Or say you haven't handled an emergency situation, put yourself in one and do like a
Just
scenario.
say like, I actually haven't been in an emergency situation before, but I know that if so-and-so whatever was to happen to me, then I would definitely make sure everyone evacuate. Yeah, I'd call 911, assess the situation.
Yeah. Call a coordinator. Like those are the things that
assess the situation, call 911, call supervisors.
Always call 911 first.
And then it's like tell them
where you are.
Tell us about a time you how to deal with a difficult guest, coworker, or manager.
They're also gonna ask about roommates. They're gonna ask
if you've lived with roommates.
First, they're gonna ask you if you've lived with roommates. If you have, they're gonna say when was a time that you had trouble with your roommates and how did you work through it. And you're basically just gonna say, oh, I
Well,
had
okay,
lots
for
of
me,
issues
she
with
had a
roommates.
ton of issues with roommates.
Lots of
But
issues.
see, for me, Megan and I have always been roommates, and we've never had a problem like with each other. But we had crap roommates this year. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably know they're terrible. But they were in the room when I was interviewing, so it's not like I could talk about them. So basically, what I said, and this is what you could say if you've never lived with roommates before, or if you've never lived with roommates but you have siblings, you can be like, I've never actually lived with a roommate, but I have siblings, and it's kind of like living with a roommate, but like for your whole life, right? Like you kind of want to just like, if you don't have an answer to a question, spin it to something that is similar, or you know what I mean? Because if you're sitting there like, oh, actually, I don't know, and you stop, they're gonna be like, okay, this.
Here's the thing, like you can also take a pause, like when you're on the phone.
Yeah,
with them,
yeah.
Like it's better to
or repeat
pause
the question
than it is to.
No, it'd be like a time that I worked with.
Yeah,
whatever.
if you do like a
not repeat the question, but like where you restate part of the question as part of your answer, so you can have more time to think. That's just like a general interview tip, I feel like.
It's also okay to be quiet for like 10 seconds
to like
and
think.
then answer.
Yeah, but basically for me, since I've never had a roommate issue or like hadn't at the time, I basically said, yeah, I have lived with a roommate. I've actually had the same roommate for the past 3 years. We've never actually had a really big conflict before, but it's because we always communicate to each other when there's a problem. And like, if you haven't had a problem, explain why, because that's basically what they're looking for. It's the same kind of thing. If you haven't had a problem with a roommate, it's because you're probably good at communicating. And if you have had a problem with a roommate, you can explain how you were trying to communicate with them, but they weren't communicating back or whatever. You know what I mean? That's basically what they're looking for.
They just want to make sure that you're not going to cause issues once you get to Disney housing.
They also are going to ask you a lot of work-related questions just about specific roles. So like they asked me about attractions, character performer, because at the time I had marked character performer, and I actually told her in the video, like, actually I can't make it to an audition. Would you be able to take me off of interest or whatever? And she was like, oh, it's totally fine. And I was so worried about that because I was like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm like whatever. But I told her like I have class all day. I'm not able to drive to wherever the audition was to go.
And they get that. They totally get that.
They asked me about attractions, character performer, character attendant, and photo pass. And I got attractions. So I don't know. I feel like it just depends on.
Sometimes they'll also ask you about roles
that you don't. Is not related at all.
Don't want, or they won't even ask you about a role, and then they'll just put you there.
Yeah.
Because
so like it doesn't really matter what they talk about in your personality.
You emphasize which ones you want, because if you don't, you'll probably end up
at the end of the interview, they're gonna say, oh, do you have any questions I can answer for you? And I think I said, first of all, what has been your experience working at Disney? And she explained to me that she worked didn't do the college program, but worked there with college program students, because I think she's from Florida. So basically it was like she was on the college program. And then I also asked if I could request a location, and she was like, sure. And like, that's the mistake a lot of people make, is they don't request a location, and you can't do it after. You just, like, there's no way to do it. So, and it doesn't mean that, I don't even know what I got yet, but it doesn't mean that they're going, you requested, didn't you request?
I requested, so she actually asked me if I had any requests for location. So we talked about attractions a lot in my interview.
But this was your recent interview.
This is my recent
interview.
interview.
Kalei also got into the same program that I'm in for this semester, but she's not going. That's another thing I forgot to mention.
I'm not going.
Yeah.
I got a front desk.
But anyway, she did have another interview. So this has been her third interview for the DCP. And they asked
Actually, this is the fourth, because I interviewed for Disneyland too, and I didn't get that one. But yeah, this time around I said I want to go back to Pandora if it's at all possible. And instead they put me in front desk. All of Disney property.
Anyway. At the end of my interview, I asked her to request a location, and she was like, sure. And so I requested Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom, and she was like, okay, well, I'll write that down. So basically, that's the only way you can get in your request, is if you say it in the interview, because there's no other time where they're gonna ask you. They're just gonna put you wherever. And we'll find out. I probably won't get in Animal Kingdom or Magic Kingdom, but I've heard that they try to put you in one of those. So
they did. I mean, they will. Usually they'll try if they can.
But overall, I think it just is about knowing what the company wants, but also being like true to yourself and knowing what you want to do, and just
don't put something down you don't want to do.
Just in general, in the interview, don't say something you don't want to do. Don't put something in the WBI that you wouldn't actually do, and don't put roles that you don't want to do. Okay, so that's all for today's video. If you have any questions about the DCP, feel free to DM me at Pins and Cats or at Kira Ellers on Instagram, or you can also message me on YouTube. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I've answered a lot of people's questions about this. I also don't know very much past the application process because I'm not there yet, obviously, but Kalei also has a lot of answers for a lot of things, so I do know a lot because of the things that she's told me, so I can pretty much, between the two of us, we can answer most questions.
Yeah. You can also message me. My Instagram is Kalei, at Kalei Ellers, and then at Kalei Meets World. So yeah, either one, feel free to message me. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, and like I said, we did, between the two of us, get 4 people into this program. 3 of us on our first try. So, like, that's pretty, yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, thumbs up this video, and leave a comment down below if you have any other questions or any video ideas. Please comment them. I need ideas. I'm home now for Christmas break, so I'm gonna be filming a lot more, hopefully.